that was 4 years ago yesterday. Actually, it's when the world got shut down, which is kind of wild. And so I just started thinking, what am I going to do to fill this time? And, I'd always wanted to start a YouTube channel. I didn't know anything about it. So I spent, probably a couple more weeks just learning all about YouTube. One video that I saw was like, look, if you write blog posts, you are writing scripts for YouTube videos. So I was like, oh, well, that like took the scariness of it away from me immediately, because I'd written all these blog posts. So that's kind of where it got started. We just started turning blog posts into YouTube videos, and have grown it, leaps and bounds from there. Whatever you are the specializer in commercial real estate brokerage, focus on that. Obviously, you know that better than anybody else, right? Going out and finding projects that were like $80 a square foot to purchase, they were completely vacant, needed some work. To me, I was like, man, this is what I do every day. I know exactly what to do here in order to get this filled up with tenants. And that's actually what my first syndication was. It was a 12,000 square foot vacant office building that we bought for $81 a foot, $980,000. And we put about $230,000 into it, delivered it in January of 2020. And despite the pandemic, because I knew the market so well, despite the pandemic, we signed 17 office leases and sold it in October for $1,650,000.
What's going on, everybody? I am excited today for our guest. I have Tyler Cauble. He's the founder of the Cauble Group. He's a real estate broker, real estate investor, real estate developer, and in my personal opinion, one of the best commercial real estate content creators out there right now. He's killing the content game. So I'm excited to have Tyler here. Thanks for hopping on, man.
Graham, I appreciate it, man. Very kind of you to say. Excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those, for the people watching who don't know much about you, give a little brief introduction of yourself.
Yeah, I got started in commercial real estate back in 2013 as the in-house leasing agent for a boutique development firm here in Nashville. Worked with them exclusively on leasing for a couple of years, got involved in some development, and then left in 2018, founded my own company. So we started off with the Cauble Group, which was doing, still to this day, commercial real estate brokerage, mostly investment sales. We've got Parasol, which is my property management company. And then I founded a development firm in 2020, which we syndicate capital and buy really cool, fun projects.
Awesome. I know some of your projects have done really well, like the Wash, and then you guys just bought a mill in Georgia, right?
We did. Yep. Just south of Chattanooga.
That's awesome. Walk me through, you just mentioned you have so many different avenues in real estate. You kind of have a full service commercial brokerage firm and property management, development, all that stuff. So you kind of cover everything. How do you balance that in a typical day? So walk me through a typical day with the brokerage, the development, and the YouTube stuff even.
Yeah, the brokerage is kind of on a need by need basis, right? So the majority of my time there is spent typically on Wednesdays. We have our one-to-one meetings on Wednesdays, and then I've got a team meeting then. Otherwise, I'm just kind of fielding, leads that are coming in through either the podcast, the YouTube channel, my Instagram account, and sending those off to the appropriate agents on my team. And then doing some of the more business development side of things there. So kind of helping, connect people, go out in the community, meet people, build relationships, and get the brokerage business out of that. The property management, fortunately, I've got a great team on that side. So again, that's more business development as well. That's why I've been able to kind of scale the way that I have. I'm not having to do any of the actual individual processes within each of the companies. I just get to focus on business development. And then same on the investment side. I probably spend more time in the investment and development side than anything else, strictly because it requires that much of my time. So I would say on any given day, it's more dealing with our investments, whether that's getting permits, going through planning, underwriting, running numbers, checking things like that, dealing with banks and investors, or YouTube. That's actually the majority of my time now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's obviously a great lead source, and it's building a personal brand and kind of a presence where you're the front face. You attract all the leads, and then you distribute them. So it makes sense. You kind of automated the workflow. So that's awesome. That kind of leads into one of the other questions I had. What does your current investment portfolio look like? I know you have some development projects going on, but do you guys have any buy and hold projects, or what are you guys working on currently?
Yeah, we currently own just under $60 million worth of real estate, and it's everything from, the Wash, which is a small little 2,400 square foot site, all the way to the largest project that I'm working on right now is a 32 acre site in Nashville and Madison. that we're master planning for about 1.5 to 2 million square feet of new construction development. So a little bit of everything. The way that I invest is I pick areas that I really like, and we learn those areas very well, and then kind of deliver our projects based on that. So, it's not like we focus on multifamily or do only self-storage. We do literally everything. I've got a hotel that's under construction at the moment. I am working on a self-storage facility out in Chattanooga. We're doing some industrial outdoor storage. I'm working on a second version of the wash. I mean, we're kind of all over the place, man. And that's what I love about this industry, is that you get to kind of get out there and do whatever gets you out of bed in the morning,
Yeah, no, that's all exciting stuff. Are you able to say where the second version of the wash is going to be, or probably not yet?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on one for the mill out in Chattanooga.
Oh,
so
cool. Okay.
It's hopefully, we've got to work through some approvals with the city first before we can actually fully announce that. But that's where we're working on the second one.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if you remember or not, but I saw your video on YouTube, and I was like, that's awesome.
Yep.
And then I got
your site in Durham.
I got a package of car washes. I listed like 4 car washes last year, and one of them we still have, that one I sent you, but hopefully going under contract this week actually. But I reached out about that. And then there was another property that you worked on. I don't know if you guys bought it or if you repped the buyer, but it was the Take 5 Oil off Duke Street. Do you remember that deal?
Yeah. So part of the YouTube, honestly, I mean, we get a bunch of triple net investors from all over the country, buyers and sellers. And that was an investor that the brokerage team was representing out of California that was buying a Take 5 Oil in Raleigh, I believe is where it was. And so they asked me if I would fly out there and get some eyes on it. So flew out and checked it out. That's
awesome, because one of the first investors I worked with ever ended up buying that little building. It was like $350,000, old automotive building. They got an offer 2 weeks after they closed for basically double. They sold it for $700,000 to a developer who, I think he had Take 5 in his back pocket. So he bought it for $700,000, and initially they started at $5 and bid it all the way up to $7. So once they agreed on $700,000, he closed on it. Then, like, I think 2 months later, we saw the Take 5 Oil stuff going up, and they put it on the market for a triple net deal at like 1.5 or 1.4 or something like that.
Yeah, so that's funny, man. Small world.
Yeah, small world. That's what I was going to say. So with the investing side of your business, how do you guys, I know you made a video about this, but how do you guys typically structure your deals? So like the company I'm at, City Plat, we, it's brokerage, similar to you. It's brokerage. They do investing. They have a capital side. So, a lot of times they'll raise money for the equity and then split it and provide a pref. Are you guys doing something like that, or are you working with a smaller number of investors, or how do you do it?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, like the project out in Chattanooga at the mill, I mean, it's just me and a couple of buddies that acquired that. We didn't syndicate it or anything. So I try and do that as often as I can because it makes my life a lot easier, not having to deal with a bunch of investors and SEC regulations and all that kind of stuff. But the majority of our projects have been 506B syndications. So we will go out and raise capital from friends and family. Basically, it's pretty much anybody that we have a pre-existing relationship with, and we have an investment minimum of $50,000. So kind of how we go out and do these projects. I mean, some of them will have, as few as, 10 investors in, and some, one of our projects right now, I've got 50 investors in. So it just kind of depends. I mean, if we can get away with finding, 1 or 2 investors that are willing to just write the check, we'll take that route. But sometimes it's a little more fun to open it up to the community.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I've seen people spin it both ways. There's groups who just want to do like, 2 guys as the GP and then hopefully find 1 or 2 LPs. And then there's other people who love bringing in lots and lots of investors, but that's a whole nother level. Like you said, you're dealing with all the reporting, and if you have 50 investors, that's a lot of people to report to.
That's right.
So what, in the brokerage, I mean, I guess kind of to encompass all your businesses, do you have a CRM that you're using, or any kind of specific software that you could recommend to people that is helping you organize all that?
Yeah, I mean, we use HubSpot. I've tried a few different versions of CRMs over the years. HubSpot is just the one that kind of clicked for us. And that's something that's very, very specific to you. From what I've found, a CRM, any CRM will work. It's just which one are you going to actively use and feed? Because they're only as good as the amount of time and work and effort you put into it. So I like HubSpot. I mean, it's what I use for the brokerage. It's what I use for all of my personal branding stuff. So, any of the free downloads on my website, anytime somebody purchases something from the website, Anytime I send out my newsletters, it all goes through HubSpot. So it makes it very easy for me to just keep track of literally everything in that one platform.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'm gonna have to check that out. I've used Monday.com, but like you said, you have to do, I mean, I've gotten better at it because I've done research, but you have to really learn these programs. Otherwise, it's like, all of them do the same thing.
That's it. I mean, we've tried MailChimp in the past and some of these other ones that are specifically just for like emailing or, just for record keeping. I think the reason I like HubSpot is you kind of get it all in one. And I know there's several others that are out there like that. But, for me, I needed something that was just simplified. I don't need 37 different logins to different softwares to do different things with all of my contacts. And then they've got to all speak to each other because, I'm picking up more contacts on this side, but this one's not looped in with that. So then I got to download all of my contacts and re-upload them into this one. So that's the nice thing about HubSpot is it just makes my life so much easier.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely going to have to check that out because simplicity makes things a lot, makes your business run a lot smoother.
Absolutely.
Are you guys using any AI tools? Have you messed with anything in the AI world yet?
Yeah, I mean, we've messed around with it a little bit. So we use AI to help us write blog posts now. We've actually trained AI on how to write like me, which is kind of wild. So before the advent of AI, I had written probably over 200 blog posts. And so, that it's very time consuming to sit down and write all of that information. And, now I've got all of these, group coaching calls that I've recorded that have a ton of information. And then we've got all of these YouTube videos we put out, all of these podcasts and live streams and all of these other blog posts. And so we've kind of compiled all of those into the AI and basically trained it on how I think about things, how I talk, how I write. Now it streamlines our process for writing blog posts. It doesn't do 100% of it. I mean, that's the biggest thing. It'll probably get us 85, 90% of the way there. And then we still have to go through and edit them to make it actually human. So it's not quite there yet, but it's getting closer. And then I'm also testing out a fully AI-driven podcast. I wanted to see what that would be like. So if you want to check that out, it's called the CRE Daily, Commercial Real Estate Daily Podcast. We're probably over 100 episodes now. I think we're releasing like 3 episodes a week. But it is a kind of a news format podcast, 2 to 3 minutes long, where we're using ChatGPT to rewrite some sort of news article and then having 11 labs, actually, which is trained on my voice, record the podcast. If you didn't know any better, you would think it's actually me. It's kind of wild.
Wow, that is crazy. I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah, we're just kind of experimenting with it. It's not really like, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But I thought, man, that's pretty interesting that you can actually do that and take, because I mean, we saw these TikToks, right, of people basically deep faking, Morgan Freeman or, all these like famous people. I was like, how are they doing their voice like that? And that's how I found 11 Labs and like, oh, let's experiment with this. Let's have some fun.
That's cool. Has it gotten any traction?
I mean, it's gotten some 5-star reviews, which I think is hilarious. Awesome. So it's fun. It's just more of a let's see what happens after a couple hundred episodes kind of thing.
That's really cool. I'll have to give a listen to that. Say the name of it one more time.
Yeah, it's the Commercial Real Estate Daily Podcast.
Commercial Real Estate Daily Podcast. Okay, cool. Yeah. So one of the other questions I had for you, and I know I've asked you this on Instagram, but what made you start getting in, what made you want to start a YouTube channel and start going after the social media presence that you have now?
Yeah. So back when I first got started in 2013, there was very little information out there to really read through or learn commercial real estate. There were a few books on Amazon. There were a couple of podcasts and 0 YouTube channels, really. And so, I always kind of told myself, like, man, as soon as I understand this enough, I'm going to teach people how to do it. The other problem is, like, in this industry, that a lot of people don't want to teach you how to do things, or at least they didn't when I first got started. It's changed drastically in the last 5 years. But, there was kind of this mentality of I'm creating competition if I show you how to do it, so I'm not going to show you how to do it. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that was a very backwards way of thinking of it. And so, in 2020, I had nothing else to do. I mean, I was sitting in the office. I forget which week it was, but I mean, that was 4 years ago yesterday. Actually, it's when the world got shut down, which is kind of wild.
That is crazy.
And so, we were a week or 2 weeks into COVID, and we had this stock market run where it was like Wednesday record lows, Thursday record lows, Friday record lows. And on that Friday, every single client terminated their contracts, every single one. I mean, it looked like it was right out of a movie. My inbox was cancel, 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 cancel. So I went from having, I mean, probably the best year I was ever going to have on the books to literally 0 deals. So the next couple of weeks I spent just prospecting, trying to get something pulled together. And I mean, man, I prospected like a fiend. The amount of contacts that I made, because we had nothing else to do, right? I was in the office by myself, working 12 hours a day. Nobody wanted to do anything. And so I just started thinking, what am I going to do to fill this time? And, I'd always wanted to start a YouTube channel. I didn't know anything about it. So I spent, probably a couple more weeks just learning all about YouTube. And I mean, literally 12 hours a day watching videos by YouTubers on how to do YouTube, which I think is kind of funny. It's very, very meta, right? One video that I saw was like, look, if you write blog posts, you are writing scripts for YouTube videos. So I was like, oh, well, that like took the scariness of it away from me immediately, because I'd written all these blog posts. So that's kind of where it got started. We just started turning blog posts into YouTube videos, and have grown it, leaps and bounds from there.
Yeah, no, it's impressive, and it's it's inspiring to me, because when I started in let's see, when did I start? I started in 2018, commercial brokerage. So right around that time, I was getting my feet wet. After 2 years was 2020, and I was like, that's when I started really wanting to take it more seriously. And I was looking for information and content and people making videos about it, and there was nothing. And so, I went on YouTube and searched up commercial real estate, and your name popped up. I think you had, I don't know how many subscribers you had at the time, but it was maybe like 6,000 or something.
Yeah, probably not many. It took me a while.
Yeah, no, and I was thinking, this guy's onto something for sure. Like that's what I want to do eventually. So I appreciate all the stuff you put out there. I've learned a lot from it.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, man. I mean, that's what makes it worth it, right? Because it's funny. I mean, we were talking about this before we went live, but I'm sitting in my YouTube studio now, and man, that's been an evolution over the last 4 years. We did not start off this way. I was recording in vacant spaces that I had listed for lease. And now I've actually got a dedicated YouTube studio for it. But I mean, we're in here recording these videos kind of by ourselves in a dark room that I light up. And then we just send the videos out into the world. So it's always really fun to hear, like in real life feedback on the content that we're putting out there. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And then the follow-up question to that is, I mean, I know obviously it's been a tremendous impact on your business, but can you elaborate on how much it's impacted your business? Brokerage, investing, I mean, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely. So probably 70 to 80% of the leads from the brokerage come through YouTube now. It used to be a majority Instagram, but then once I started paying more attention to YouTube, I stopped paying as much attention to Instagram. So I need to get better about that. I do like Instagram. Just off of YouTube alone and kind of the, I won't get into very specific numbers, but we'll be in the 6 figures this year of profit just from YouTube activities. Then of course there's the brokerage as well, that does its thing. And then we get a lot of investors through it now, which is really great. So our investor list has grown substantially. And it's made my life a lot easier. I mean, the biggest thing to me is that I just get to make fun, cool videos now. The channel's kind of to a point where it's big enough where I can get really interesting developers, really interesting investors to want to give us a behind the scenes look at what they're doing. And we're kind of showcasing that in a series called The Story of the Deal. And we've got some really cool projects that are kind of on the books to be recorded this year. So, I mean, for me personally, the commercial real estate nerd that I am, that's the coolest part about it, is that I'm basically getting paid to go out and meet with really interesting people and look at really cool deals. Yeah,
that's so cool. So you should check out, I know you've talked to Pat a little bit. Pat's one of the founders of City Plat. They did a really cool deal in downtown Durham where they bought an old, like 3 industrial buildings that were, I think they were even contaminated. And it was like right on the edge of downtown Durham. They bought them, redid them. And now there's a very successful Mexican restaurant there that did like $1 million build out. They're opening up a, what's the word for it? Like a speakeasy, and then a coffee shop. And it's a sweet redevelopment. So stuff like that. I can see why you'd get excited about making videos. It's really, really cool and interesting.
Yeah. I mean, reconnect me with Pat. Would love to talk to him and see if it makes sense for a Story of the Deal. That stuff's always fun.
I think it would. Yeah, that would be awesome. Awesome. I'll definitely do that. One of the next questions I have is who do you look up to in commercial real estate?
Oh, that's a tough question. So it really depends. Like if you want to talk about brokerage, Bob Knackel, I mean, hands down, obviously the dude's basically the godfather of commercial real estate brokerage. On the investment side, honestly, it's my friend, right? I mean, we've got Logan Freeman, Matt Anderson, Dave Codre, Brian Adams. I mean, a lot of these guys are on my podcast regularly, and I just love watching what they do. I mean, to me, it's just a lot of fun to see what other people, close to my age are going out and accomplishing. Because, 10 years ago, we were all in totally different spots, right? We were just getting started in the industry and everybody was just struggling to make it by. And now everybody's, really forging their own paths and doing super unique things. And that's inspiring to me. There's not really a developer that I would put on a pedestal because I think, I'm not a big celebrities kind of guy. And I always think it's funny when people just like lose their minds. They're like, oh my gosh, that's so-and-so. It's like, yeah, I mean, they're awesome. He's doing really cool things, but like I just couldn't imagine putting myself in this like celebrity position looking at some of these developers. Honestly, I get a lot of inspiration from people that are in residential real estate. They're better than commercial real estate, investors, developers, brokers when it comes to marketing and showing off really cool properties. Like honestly, Ryan Serhant has one of the best YouTube channels in the entire real estate industry, period. I would love to be able to produce the level of content of what he's doing. It's tough to find that inspiration in commercial real estate. So, I mean, honestly, like going all the way back to 2017, that was where my original inspiration for doing anything with social media or anything online came from. It was residential agents because they are better at marketing. And so I took some feathers out of their caps, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I was actually talking about that earlier today because I just put a video on my Instagram. I was trying to really step up my game. And I was like, if you go on Instagram or YouTube, there's not many. I mean, like literally it's you, making commercial real estate content. I don't know if you've connected with Henry Eisenstein at all.
Yeah,
he's making a lot of good commercial real estate content. And then otherwise you get on Instagram, it's residential brokers. And you're right. They're killing it, making great content.
Exactly.
I saw one recently in our area that it's like a $9 million house right on the water, and it had like 700,000 views on a reel. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
but you got to interview Bob Knackel live recently, right?
I did. I sure did, down at CCC in Atlanta. Which quick plug. We are opening the CCC chapter here in Nashville, April 25th. So if you're in the area, come check it out. But yeah, awesome. I mean, it was awesome. Bob is really cool guy. I mean, he's such a character. And so, I hopefully will be releasing that interview in the next few weeks. I wanted to take my time with it, make sure we do it right. But I spent a lot of time coming up with questions for him because I was like, this guy has done so many interviews. I want to ask him questions that he has never been asked before. So I think it made for a really interesting interview.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that. I was fortunate enough to interview him as well, actually, kind of just like this. But I was trying to think of the same thing. Like, let me try to think of I asked him some basic questions, but I was also like, let me try to think of some stuff that nobody's really asked him. So,
yeah, he's a good dude. I mean, he's really chill. That's the cool thing, right? Like, there's so many people that I know that are in this industry that are big time brokers, big time developers, big time lenders, whatever. They all have these crazy egos, and I can't stand that. It's not me. And Bob is like the exact opposite of that. He's the kind of guy you're like, man, I could sip sweet tea with this guy. I could have whiskey with him. We could do it, just about anything.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. He's such a down to earth guy, and I mean, he's got all the right in the world to brag, but it's so humble.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. What would you say to I know you have a course on this, but what would you say to a new person? Like, for example, myself, I have some residential properties, not a lot, but I have a small portfolio of residential properties like duplexes and stuff. I want to buy my first commercial deal this year. It's one of my goals. What would you say to somebody brand new coming into their first commercial real estate investment? What advice would you give them?
It's funny. That's very timely. So my buddy Brandon Turner has a mastermind, and he is not able to make their call tonight. So I'm actually stepping in, and that's literally like what I'm teaching them about tonight is transitioning from residential to commercial real estate. I mean, it would be a much longer conversation depending on what your portfolio looks like, because there's an opportunity there for you to sell everything and 1031 exchange that capital into your first commercial building. But otherwise, I mean, man, if you've bought real estate before, you already understand 80% of the process of buying a commercial property. There's just some details that you've really got to dig into to understand that are different. One is like the transaction timeline, right? Commercial real estate obviously just takes way longer.
Mm-hmm.
The due diligence side of things, you got to understand how to do that. Financing is very different. But I mean, man, you kind of do this on a day-to-day basis, and that's the thing that, yeah, I mean, you actually understand a lot more of it than you think, and I know that because I was in your exact same position back in 2019. I was a commercial real estate broker. I'd been doing it for 5 years, still hadn't bought my first building, and I was scared to do it, even though I was helping people do this literally day in and day out. And it took me finally just taking the leap in order for me to actually do it. And it was because a client of mine was under contract on a property. They couldn't get their financing together. I said, hold on, there's an $18,000 commission in this for me. Let me assign it to another one of my investors. He came in, couldn't get his financing together. And I was looking at this going, man, I'm going to lose $18,000, 3 months of my time. And this is clearly a no-brainer of a deal. So I told that investor, I was like, dude, just assign me the contract. I'll figure this out. And, there was no reason for me to actually do that other than the fact that I had so much confidence that this deal could be pulled together. We should do it. So I texted two guys that I'd known for a few years. One was a doctor, one was a developer. And I said, look, I know, I've never bought a commercial property before, but I've been doing this day in and day out. I know what I'm doing. Here's my plan for this, and I'm not going to let this fail. And they both said, yeah, we don't think that you'll let this fail. So they gave me $50,000 each. I rolled in my commission as equity in the deal, and then I took an extra 10%. So I ended up with about 25% equity in that project. And it was a great first project. I bought 3 more buildings that year because I finally just got through the first one. I was like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Let's go.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks for that advice. That's good to hear that. I kind of did that on a let's see, in September I bought 2 duplexes, but they came on the market and I just recognized they were a good deal. They were in Durham. I know the market here. So it's like, I just tied them up myself, knowing that I didn't have the funds to take it down. So then I went out and called a couple people, kind of like you're talking about, and we were able to get it done. So now I have a portion of that deal, and yeah, that's cool. So I basically just need to reapply that same strategy to a commercial deal.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. I mean, I think, too, like, figure out like whatever you are the specializer in commercial real estate brokerage, focus on that. Obviously, that better than anybody else, right? So for me, it was always like taking, I started my brokerage when I was 26 years old. A lot of people were not willing to take a chance on a 26-year-old guy that didn't have CBRE backing him. And so I wasn't going to let that stop me. So I took on a lot of hairy projects, the projects that nobody else could figure out. So it was a lot of like vacant buildings, or this one needs a lot of work, or, this is a weird tenant mix. And I figured it out. Right. And so, going out and finding projects that were like $80 a square foot to purchase, they were completely vacant, needed some work. To me, I was like, man, this is what I do every day. I know exactly what to do here in order to get this filled up with tenants. And that's actually what my first syndication was. It was a 12,000 square foot vacant office building that we bought for $81 a foot, $980,000. And we put about $230,000 into it, delivered it in January of 2020. And despite the pandemic, because I knew the market so well, despite the pandemic, we signed 17 office leases and sold it in October for $1,650,000.
Wow.
So it worked out really well, but it's because I focused on what I was good at.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm focusing on retail and industrial right now. So really like industrial though. So I think I might try to target industrial deal. And CityPlat has gives their brokers the ability to roll into some of the deals. So we're actually closing on one tomorrow that I'll be rolling in on. I'll have a small portion of that one. So
congrats, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Thank you.
That's a big deal. I mean, that's the thing. All you got to do is start building that track record, one project at a time, Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you. You made me think of a question. Are you guys acquiring stuff right now? And if so, what are you going after?
Yeah, I mean, we're always open to it, right? I mean, especially today, I want something that's more creative, right? I want seller financing. Like I'm talking to a group out of Mexico right now on a Mexican hotel where, we're trying to get them to seller finance 100%. Because I know that I can bring in my hotel management company and increase the NOI and increase the value, and therefore refinance, get the investor, get the seller out and move on. But it's really tough with financing today, and I'm just not really interested in doing the brain damage of what that requires, unless there's a really good deal. So we almost bought a mobile home park a couple weeks ago. Ended up backing out of that one. That was actually because of the project, not because of financing. And we're always looking at good deals. I mean, if there's a story to be told and we can clearly see it, then we'll do it.
Cool. And any area? I mean, you said Mexico, so.
Yeah, I mean, that one was it's a big enough project to where I could justify having to hop on a plane and brush off my passport to go deal with. But yeah, I mean, pretty much any area. I prefer Tennessee and any of the surrounding states because I can pretty much get to them. I mean, Atlanta's only 4 hours away. St. Louis is 4 hours, 4.5 hours away. They're even closer by plane, and it's more about proximity. But that being said, I'm a partner in a deal up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So it just kind of depends. I mean, if I'm coming in and JVing with a local group, like I did in that property up in Milwaukee, and I'm kind of bringing my balance sheet, my expertise to the table, and my ideas, that's very different from if I'm being like the lead sponsor and I've got to run the project. So if I've got to run it, it's got to be a little bit closer to me. Otherwise, I'm willing to look a little further out.
Have you checked out Commercial Academy at all?
I haven't. What's that?
Oh, it's awesome. I went in, let's see, what was it? February. So last month. There was one in Orlando, but it's basically like, it was a 5-day event, 3 days of Commercial Academy, which is like in-person real estate education for you. And, you wouldn't probably, you might take away little nuggets, but the second 2 days is a mastermind that I wasn't a part of. I wish I was, but the owners of our firm were a part of it. So I got to go for free because one of them couldn't make it. But it's basically like, I think there was like 150 people in the room. But I mean, these were some of the best operators I had heard speak. And it's basically like a bunch of yous in a room, people who are syndicating deals, finding deals, creative deals across the country. It was really cool group. I actually think you would really like it.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. But what's the future look like for you at the Cauble Group and, all your businesses?
Yeah, man. I mean, we're just going to continue to grow and do really cool projects. I don't really have some crazy, big, hairy, audacious goal of, we want to build a whole city or something like that. To me, it's more like, can we continue to have a positive impact on our communities through each project that we do? And can I continue to have fun doing it every day? That's the biggest thing to me. I've gotten myself into some situations over the years where, we did it for the money and not necessarily for the passion or for the love. And, it's tough to get out of bed on those days, right? Because you don't really care to go do that. And they were successful projects, don't get me wrong. But man, there's just something to be said about, doing the ones that are closer to the heart instead of the pocketbook that make your life that much more enjoyable. So to me, it's all about finding the next really cool project where we can do something fun.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I mean, you guys are killing it. So yeah,
I appreciate it. It's fun.
Yeah.
Like I said.
Well, that was pretty much all the questions I had for you. I appreciate you hopping on here again, and like I said, you're doing a great job, and you're inspiring a lot of people, and I appreciate all the content you're putting out there. So, thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Graham. Thanks for having me on the show, man.
Absolutely.